Hello and welcome to Foreign Dispatches, the program that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Teniola Shoboale. On the program this week, UK begins rollout of Pfizer Biotech's COVID-19 vaccine, plus we return to Wuhan, China, nearly a year since the first coronavirus cases were detected. In a landmark moment in the coronavirus pandemic, the United Kingdom has become the first Western nation to begin vaccinating its citizens with a COVID-19 shot outside of clinical trials. The first Briton to get the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine was 90-year-old Margaret Keenan, who received the first of 2 doses on Tuesday, less than a week after the UK became the first country to approve it.
Just going to be squeezing your arm, okay?
Okay.
The NHS kicked off the biggest vaccination program in its history, with 90-year-old Margaret Keenan receiving the first COVID-19 Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. Margaret says getting the jab was the best early birthday present as she turns 91 next week.
It was fine. It was fine. I wasn't nervous at all. It was really good, yeah. I thought it was a joke, to tell you the truth, to start with. I couldn't believe it, but I'm happy it's happened, and now I've done it, and hopefully it'll help other people to come along and do as I did, try and do the best to get rid of this terrible thing.
Applause broke out after she received the first dose at the University Hospital in Coventry. Her treatment means the UK is now the first Western country to roll out mass vaccinations to the public.
I just need you to relax your arm for me.
Second in line to get the vaccine in the UK is William Shakespeare. The 81-year-old had the injection at University Hospital Coventry on Tuesday, 20 miles from Stratford-upon-Avon, the birthplace of his namesake, England's greatest dramatist and poet.
Groundbreaking, I think. It could make a difference to our lives from now on, couldn't it? The start of changing our lives and our lifestyle.
Amid the gravity of the pandemic, the vaccination of Shakespeare was greeted with humor on social media. Twitter users joked about the taming of the flu and the 2 gentlemen of corona. Some were probing if Margaret Keenan was patient 1A, was Shakespeare patient 2B or not to be? Some 800,000 doses of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine have been secured by the government to be administered in the coming weeks, although vaccination is not compulsory. Orders have been placed for 40 million in total, enough for 20 million people as 2 courses are needed. Care home residents and carers, the over 80s and some health service workers are top priority to get the vaccine.
I'm feeling very emotional today. It is really quite remarkable. We, less than a year ago, were treating the first patient with COVID, and we are now able to give a vaccine. The team has been incredible. People have been working 24/7 to make sure that this safe and effective vaccine, the vaccine that has been signed off and approved by MHRA, can be given safely out in hospitals and in the future in general practice and community pharmacy, because what we want to make sure is that as many people as possible are vaccinated. But that's going to take some time. It is a marathon, not a sprint.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine would help the country overcome the virus, but it will be a long process before it's totally defeated.
Well, it's going to take a while. I want to stress that it will take, weeks and months rather than just days to get all this done. Obviously, the NHS is going to work as fast as it possibly can, and I'm extremely proud and impressed with what the NHS is doing this morning. But it will be right the way through for the next few months. So I just urge people to contain their impatience. It's a very, very exciting moment, but there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of discipline to be maintained. We're finding that people don't realise quite how easy it is to transmit this disease asymptomatically, without symptoms. And 1 in 3 people is passing it on without even having any symptoms at all yourself. Do you see what I mean? So you can be a secret spreader of the disease. And I don't think people have grasped that. And it's very, very important in the weeks ahead that everybody understands that. We didn't realise at the beginning quite how easily the disease can be spread without symptoms. It's very, very important people think about that, think that they could be, you and I, we could be, transmitting it without actually having the symptoms.
Britain is the worst hit European country from COVID-19, with over 61,000 deaths, but the government hopes to turn the tide against the disease by rolling out the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine before the United States or European Union.
As the UK goes ahead with its COVID-19 mass vaccination to get the pandemic under control, and other countries around the world prepare to approve COVID-19 vaccines, experts are warning that a sizable minority of people believe conspiracy theories about the coronavirus and COVID-19 vaccines. At a recent protest in central London, hundreds of people shouted slogans against COVID-19 lockdown measures and vaccinations.
Many here don't believe in COVID-19 or think their lives should change because of it, and many of them refuse to be vaccinated against it.
We're sick and tired of being abused. We're sick and tired of living in fear. We're sick and tired of being manipulated. And we ain't going to do it no more.
I don't want to be vaccinated. I want to be free. I want to live my life. I want all my friends to live their lives.
We do not consent.
Experts are warning that a sizable minority of people in Britain believe conspiracy theories about the coronavirus and COVID-19 vaccines. They say they're shocked at how fast this kind of misinformation can spread and how easily it's taken as fact.
What we're finding is in the wake of the pandemic that conspiracy beliefs may have gone mainstream, that they're no longer confined to the fringes. So around half the population isn't thinking in terms of conspiracy beliefs at all, but around a quarter are entertaining such thoughts. Another quarter are consistently thinking in terms of conspiracy beliefs. Around 1 in 10 people seem to have a very high rate of endorsement of conspiracy beliefs.
Just as countries prepare to launch mass vaccination programs, they'll also need to convince some of the population to take part. Logging online, the internet is full of rumours and false information.
There's a lot of different theories. Some people think it's a way of Bill Gates to put an implant in you so that he can control you, because a lot of people believe that he sort of controls a lot of the world because he's a billionaire. And so a lot of people believed in that. A lot of people believed it was a way of controlling the population because to bring our numbers down.
The fight to find a vaccine may have been won, but there's another conflict brewing as governments now need to convince their citizens and populations about the best way to protect themselves against the virus.
Well, let's check in how people outside the UK are reacting to the idea of getting vaccinated. In other European countries, the reactions have been mixed. While some residents welcome the idea, most others say they'll rather wait and see the effect of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine on others.
Spaniards were mostly pleased that the British started vaccination against coronavirus, so it would be safer for them when the vaccination plan in Spain takes off in January next year.
It seems better to me if they test it with them. The rest of us will do better. They test it for a month before with the British, and if something happens to them, we don't take the vaccine.
According to a survey conducted on Friday, more than half of Spaniards are not willing to get COVID-19 vaccine shots as soon as they are available, as the government announced the target of 15 to 20 million vaccinations by mid-2021. Over in Germany, residents in Berlin were mostly ambivalent as the UK on Tuesday rolled out its coronavirus vaccine for the general public.
Let's put it this way, it's all about Brexit. Prime Minister Johnson is using it to try and distinguish himself and to be able to say, see, not being in the EU has all these benefits. We are 2 months faster. It's a double-edged sword, as always. It could all go belly up or could be good. We will only know in 2 years, and then we can see who was right.
I think it's too soon to start giving vaccines to people. And I won't do it, to be honest. I prefer to wait because we don't know in the long term what's going to happen. So I'd rather take care, yeah.
Germany has said they will likely start vaccinating towards the end of December or the beginning of January. And in Brussels, Belgium, one student welcomed the news, but says she would wait and see how safe the COVID-19 vaccines would prove to be.
I think it's a good thing because we really need the vaccinations. I just hope it doesn't have any side effects. So yeah, just see and wait, I guess.
In Paris, the capital of a country where a large proportion of the population shows mistrust in vaccines, some say they are keen to get the jab, but others show defiance.
I'm surprised at how quickly the COVID-19 vaccine approval was carried out in Great Britain. If I were English, I would probably be a bit wary of this.
Vaccination is probably the only solution to end this pandemic. Of course, there are still a few uncertainties, but I think it's worth it. And as for myself, I will quickly get the vaccine.
French authorities say they will start their vaccination campaign in January by targeting those most at risk of developing serious complications from the disease. The European Medicines Agency, EMA, which is in charge of approving COVID-19 vaccines for the EU, says its longer approval procedure was more appropriate, as it was based on more evidence and required more checks than the emergency procedure chosen by Britain.
Although the UK has launched mass vaccinations against coronavirus using the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, it's not the only country offering vaccines outside of trial conditions. Russia began large-scale vaccinations for at-risk groups over the weekend using the Sputnik V vaccine, which received emergency approval from the government in August. But clinical trials to test its safety and efficacy have not yet been completed.
Moscow began distributing the Sputnik COVID-19 shot via 70 clinics on Saturday, December the 5th. Back in August, the Sputnik vaccine was the first to be registered for emergency use, although it had only been tested on a few dozen people. Now, doctors, teachers and social workers are being offered Sputnik in a mass inoculation campaign ordered by President Vladimir Putin.
We started a targeted vaccination from the people who work at our hospital. As for now, these 100 have received second shots. We have not encountered any complications or side effects. Now, every week we receive batches of vaccine from medical workers and social service workers of our city and ordinary residents as well.
But Sputnik V is still in the midst of trials to check that it's safe and actually works, making some Russians wary of receiving it yet.
When Russian leaders get vaccinated, I will do it too.
If at least 30% of people vaccinated get positive results, I will get a jab too.
To be honest, I don't know because I have not read any researches on this vaccine, whether it works or not. But I am sure and I believe that there is nothing wrong with vaccination.
The age for those receiving shots is capped at 60. People with certain underlying health conditions, pregnant women, and those who have had a respiratory illness for the past 2 weeks are barred from vaccination. Scientists have raised concerns about the speed at which Moscow has worked, given the regulatory go-ahead for its vaccines and launching mass vaccinations before full trials to test its safety and efficacy had been completed. Russia has agreed production and supply deals with a number of foreign countries.
When Foreign Dispatches returns in just a moment, all may not be calm in 2020, but some things are still bright this Christmas in Brazil. We'll tell you all about it in a moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on Foreign Dispatches. Almost a year since the city of Wuhan reported the world's first cases of COVID-19 in a wet market, and even as several other countries remain firmly in the grip of the subsequent pandemic, life in Wuhan has largely returned to normal. The Chinese city has not recorded a new locally transmitted case in several months.
It's been almost a year since the first cases of COVID-19 were detected in central China in the city of Wuhan. Before there was an outbreak here, and later the world's pandemic. China first alerted the World Health Organization to 27 cases of viral pneumonia in Wuhan on December the 31st. Since then, more than 67 million people have been infected with the virus and some 1.54 million people have died. But apart from face masks, few hints remain of Wuhan's early role in the pandemic, even while many countries still struggle to contain the virus. In a wet market 15-minute drive from the epicenter of the Wuhan outbreak, shops hum with daily life. Sellers catch and gut fish, while visitors buy vegetables, live frogs and turtles. This vendor shrugs off fear of the virus.
I'm not afraid. What is there to be afraid of? The whole world is like this now.
Some say it didn't originate in Wuhan at all.
It's definitely not China, where the virus originated. It must have been brought over by someone else.
Wuhan was initially hard hit by the coronavirus, recording over 50,000 cases and nearly 4,000 deaths in the early months of 2020. Residents still remember the pressure of the 76-day lockdown they endured when the city's empty streets were bisected by kilometers of thick yellow barricades that cut off businesses and kept people at home. But those memories are becoming more distant as the city returns to a daily rhythm. Wuhan has not recorded a new locally transmitted case in several months, and China's relative success in controlling the virus has become a key talking point in Chinese state media. Locals put it down to self-discipline and personal hygiene.
Everyone is quite strict with personal safety measures. People are always wearing masks when outside. I have been out of Wuhan and I realized that people from outside Wuhan do not wear masks.
The city's recovery is in sharp contrast to other major economies heading into the holiday season. The United States recorded 15,000 deaths last week, the highest 7-day rate since April, while European countries have rolled out tight restrictions on gatherings ahead of Christmas.
Elsewhere in China, there are fresh fears about a widespread outbreak of coronavirus as new cases have been confirmed in Chengdu, a major city in southwestern China.
Chengdu has a population of approximately 16 million people, and the city has confirmed 5 new symptomatic cases of the virus since Monday. An elderly couple were confirmed to have the virus on Monday, but on the day after, a couple of elderly farmers and the 20-year-old granddaughter of the first couple have also been confirmed as having the virus. The latter had visited multiple bars and restaurants around the city, and so these have been sealed off with police tape, and recent visitors have been told to immediately get tested. Official media say that schools and nurseries in Chengdu's Pidu district have been suspended, and the local government has locked down the gated communities of the latest patients. Residents in these communities are also being tested. However, state media are dismissing news online that the city is imminently going into lockdown. Global Times reported that the city has entered wartime mode, but the official CCTV broadcaster claims that Chengdu's airports and railway stations are operating as normal.
Away from China, in the latest sign, Australia is returning to some kind of normalcy. On Monday, Australia's western state started allowing travellers from the states of Victoria and New South Wales to enter without having to isolate for the first time in 8 months.
Passengers on a Qantas flight arrived in Perth, the capital of Western Australia, from Sydney to emotional scenes of families reuniting after months of separation. The move comes as Australia's 2 most populous states have seen little to no new cases in recent weeks. Victoria has had no new cases for more than a month, while New South Wales has recorded just 1 local infection in the last 4 weeks.
So good to have my mum back. I missed you. So, yeah, it feels amazing. We didn't know until the last second that you would get on the flight, flying standby. So, thanks Qantas.
Very, very excited. Haven't seen most of my family in Perth for that long, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's been actually a long time in the planning, but it's been a year since we've been home to Perth as well. But I think we applied for our tickets in the past 3 or 4 months ago as well. So we've just shifted to avoid the quarantine this week, which is great.
Oh, they're growing. How are you feeling?
Very tearful, very tearful. It's been madness.
The easing of restrictions means only people arriving from South Australia, which reported 30 new coronavirus cases late last month, will have to quarantine upon arrival. Western Australia had already resumed restriction-free travel with other states in recent weeks. The easing of travel restrictions has come with a strong warning from the Premier, Mark McGowan, who says the reopening could be reversed if NSW and Victoria record fresh COVID-19 outbreaks.
A true reflection of in sickness and in health. COVID-19 could not keep this Indian couple from getting married after the bride tested positive for COVID-19 just hours before the marriage. They just had to sacrifice traditional Indian wedding attire for PPEs. Take a look.
After testing positive for COVID-19 on the morning of her wedding day on Sunday, December the 6th, a bride in India was sent to the quarantine center heartbroken, but that did not stop her father and the groom from saving the day. The couple, whose names were not made public, tied the nuptial knot, decked not in a bridal gown or suit, but personal protection equipment kits at a COVID-19 care center in India's western state of Rajasthan on the day itself. The bride's uncle had tested positive 2 days before the wedding, and when the administration collected samples from the bride and her sister-in-law after contact tracing, they were also found to be positive on the day of the wedding.
We tested all of his relatives, including the bride and the bride's sister-in-law, during contact tracing, and she was found positive on the morning of her wedding. After this, we spoke to their families and administration officials, and the relatives, the bride and groom, agreed to get married at the quarantine center without any elaborated costumes and rituals.
The families of the bride and groom met the administration, and they decided to go ahead on the date that was fixed with a low-key affair. The nuptials took place under strict supervision of the medical staff at the center and district administration. The only guests at the wedding were the bride's parents and the priest, who were adorned in PPE. Afterwards, both bride and groom were placed in isolation at the center, part of a network of quarantine facilities set up in almost every village.
And finally, the holidays are very different this year due to the coronavirus pandemic, but authorities around the world are making sure people still safely experience a little holiday spirit through multiple holiday-themed drive-through experiences. Well, let's take a drive through one of these in Brazil.
The world may be at its darkest time in terms of COVID-19, but some things are still lighting up for the festive season. In Brazil, the city of Sao Paulo has unveiled a display of hundreds of elaborate Christmas decorations and shining lights. People can enjoy the installation from the safety of their cars as they drive through a 40-minute course. This drive-through lantern festival offers a glimpse of Christmas to locals who otherwise will have spent the holidays stuck at home.
The idea was to have a moment of joy, a moment when people can safely leave their homes to feel safe and enjoy moments within the family. Love, peace, and hope that Christmas gives, even if it is just for an hour or 40 minutes.
For those passing by for a glimpse of Christmas from their cars, the results are delightful, but also bittersweet.
The Christmas light show is a very interesting event, especially during pandemic times. When we are closed up at home, we can get involved in this joy.
This is a great event. People were at home thinking about what they can do, and to have an event like this where you are safe, to not get out of the car is really great.
Millions of Brazilians are preparing for a very different Christmas this year, with many cities also cancelling traditional New Year's Eve fireworks festivities. Brazil has registered more than 6.5 million cases of coronavirus and over 176,000 deaths.
And that's the program today. As always, remember that you can catch up with all our top stories on channelstv.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.